Let me ask you, because one of the questions right now is paid family leave. You said that you hope that that's going to be in there, 4 weeks of paid family leave, and the expansion of Medicare to include dental, vision, and hearing coverage. Is that going to be in the bill?
Well, that's part of the negotiation. Dental is very expensive, so hearing and visual, and dental, but dental will take a little longer to implement. But that's part of the negotiation right now.
So you don't know what's going to be in the final bill.
Well,
it sounds like you're saying dental might not make it because
it's
so expensive.
It'll be on a path. It'll be on a path. But what they told us, and I don't quite understand why, but we've been told by people who know about these things that it'll take 5-6 years in order to implement the dental. Yeah. So how do we, shall we say, fill in the blank there? Bernie has some suggestions about how to do that. That'll be part of the negotiation.
Bernie Sanders, the independent from Vermont. Sanders. Are you frustrated? I mean, you talk about how you're almost there, except for 10% of the bill, and you also talk about how the House is there. You guys are ready. You're going to pass it, and it's really these two Senate holdouts, Sinema and Manchin. Are you frustrated with them?
Well, I'm respectful of everybody's point of view. I do not want the I don't want the Trump tax cuts perpetuated. So I don't want anybody to think if we don't address those right now they're off the table. No, we will use them for something at some point, because you can't use the wealth tax and tax the billionaires, which is what we should be doing, and let corporate America off the hook. But corporate America will be paying because of the overseas tax, and some of the other provisions are very technical to go into right now.
Yeah.
We'll know more tomorrow to see what makes the cut.
What makes the cut.
And then it's worth it, the time to go into it.
There's also this issue of the debt ceiling, right?
Well, that's a different issue. That's separate.
It's a separate issue, but in terms of how you get it through the Congress to President Biden's desk, maybe separate, maybe not. Congress acted to raise the debt ceiling through December 3rd. After that, Republican leader, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says, you're on your own. We're not going to provide any votes for Democrats. A default, obviously, would be devastating for the American economy, for the world economy. Are you willing to attach raising the debt ceiling to the social safety net package, or if not, to use reconciliation, which means only 51 votes needed in the Senate anyway, in order to get this done?
That's one path, but we're still hoping to have bipartisanship. It seems that the American people should understand that what we're talking about is largely the Trump debt.
Right.
Now, we participated in some of it with COVID and the rest, but we didn't participate in giving a tax scam, 83% of the benefits to the top 1%, that added $2 trillion to the debt. President Biden's part of this debt is about 3%.
Right.
And yet the Republicans, who when the former president was in office 3 times, we had to do something about the national debt. Now, look at what is in jeopardy. Even talking about it is not a good idea, because, I mean, even placing in doubt whether it was, it's not a good idea, because it can lower the credit rating of our country, as it did when the Republicans did not want to increase it when President Obama was president. Seems they're okay with it when there's a Republican president, but not a Democrat. 6 to 7 million jobs could be lost. $15 trillion in household wealth. Consequences that could last for decades.
Why not get rid of the debt ceiling?
Well, that's what we have a plan to do as well. There are a number of plans to do that, but would the Republicans agree to that before we again?
Okay. Well, so your mind is open in terms of whether or not you use reconciliation, or whether or not you attach it to the social safety net bill.
Well, we still would rather have bipartisanship, whether it's a Democratic president or a Republican president.
But you probably won't have it, so you'll consider these options, is all I'm saying. I want to ask you,
and it's very, very, very important.
Absolutely. I do want to ask about your own future in Congress. Are you going to run for re-election?
Oh, you think I'm going to make an announcement right here and now?
Yeah. Why not?
I'll have to be on many more times than that.
You're going to run for re-election, though, yes?
Why would I tell you that now?
Well, it's not just me. It's the American people. It's the world. This is an international show.
Well, probably I would have that conversation with my family first, if you don't mind.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the legislation.
Thank you.
I know it's a heavy lift.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's good to see you all. Eugene, this is a fast-moving story. Tell us where we are right now. Yeah, right now we know they are still negotiating, right? Like we say, we say this every week, but it is.
We
like
really,
you said,
Eugene, we need that puppy cam you and I have talked about, where we can like look in and see, read the body language, see how things are going.
Exactly.
But we also have what we started with, that working list of the things that could come or that could go. My sense is that today's conversations really zeroed in on paid family leave and whether or not we'll see that Medicare expansion. Is that your understanding as well?
No, absolutely, because that was one of the things that we knew going into it that Joe Manchin could kind of do without, right? The federal paid leave. It went from 12 weeks. It's then President Biden kind of shocked a few people last week saying that it was now at 4 weeks. So that means that that is something that they might continue to whittle down, which I will say is not the promise they made to the American people, right? That is going to be something that working parents are going to have a big issue with, despite the fact that there's all these other billions and billions of dollars in this bill. On the Medicare aspect of that, you're going to see some people like Bernie Sanders have a big issue with that. And so this isn't as if like they finished the bill. Speaker Pelosi said they're at 90%. If they get to 100%, they could still disagree, but they are talking differently about the bill. For the first time, President Biden's kind of letting us know the conversations that he's been having instead of saying, not negotiating from the podium right there, giving us information. So that does indicate that they are whittling down, and we might get a vote possibly on the bipartisan infrastructure bill on Wednesday, meaning that whatever framework they've agreed on to the for reconciliation, progressives have signed on to.
So, Sochi, as always, Eugene sort of beat me to the punch there, which is that what I am noticing, too, is that the way that they are talking about this is changing. Notably to me is Senator Warren, who very often is among those who holds the line on some of the most progressive causes and issues, saying, hey, guys, like, we're getting close to getting it done, and let's not lose the focus on the fact that this will still be big. It will still be historic. What does it tell you, Sochi, as a messaging person, that the messaging has now shifted?
Well, the important part about this is negotiations that's not a bad word. Compromise is not a bad word. And that's what you heard Jen Psaki say. And that's what you're hearing Democrats say now. They understand the original bill does not have 50 votes, which means the Democrats would end up with nothing. That is not an option. This is why they are coming to the table and compromising and talking to Joe Manchin. And you continue to see the talks today. What you'll hear from Democrats over the next few days and ahead of 2022, and this is the way that they'll sell this package, is that it's still a historic investment in childcare, in education, in the care economy. It's the second largest climate bill that we have passed. So there is significant progress we've made. You've also heard from Jen Psaki saying that on climate, if they're going a certain route and they might not get everything that they want. But at the end of the day, he will use executive action to ensure that they are meeting their climate goals. And so this is one big step in the right direction. And not to mention, they're also going to pass infrastructure. This is a big deal because at the end of the day, Donald Trump, he tried to pass this. Republicans tried to pass this. They couldn't deliver. So what Joe Biden is going to do is he's going to go into the midterm election with a huge investment in families and then an infrastructure bill that members of Congress can go home and sell.
Okay, so this, of course, Jamil, not done yet. And Arizona's Kristen Sinema was not at today's meeting in Delaware. She is, of course, drawing a lot of criticism from Democrats for not being completely transparent about what it is she wants from these negotiations. Here's Congressman Ro Khanna. Take a listen.
My concern with Senator Sinema is, why are the rules different for her? Why doesn't she go on shows like yours? Why doesn't she explain herself? If she's shifted her position on Trump tax cuts, explain it. I guess I've never seen a politician, including, frankly, the former President Trump, who just totally ducks answering questions of the media or constituents. And that's my frustration with her. She's not clear about what she believes.
Jamil, your sense at this point of Sinema's role in this process?
She seems to not understand the full obligations and requirements of someone in her position, someone who is required to not only listen to her constituents, but also to, frankly, be in contact with her party. I mean, to not explain at all what she's doing is, frankly, a dereliction of duty. But with regards to Joe Manchin, unfortunately, we know exactly why he's doing what he's doing. Unfortunately, he's got a personal financial stake in the coal industry. He's got large campaign contributions coming in from coal. And unfortunately, he's doing this to the detriment of his constituents in West Virginia, a state that is less likely to have adults who are working right now full time, and also putting things contingent on work, putting this child aid contingent upon people finding work, I think is actually more hurtful to people in his state than many others.
Xochitl, I think when we talk about why certain things are on the chopping block, there are the rationales that Jamil just laid out. But then there are other things that I continue to find really hard to rationalize. So the expanded child tax credit, universal pre-K, still 2 points of contention in the spending bill. In a Washington Post op-ed, education expert Elliot Haspel writes that without these child care provisions, America is, quote, headed into the child care wilderness. There is a limited window to build a new system where the old one has failed. It cannot be allowed to slam shut on the outstretched fingers of the nation's parents and children. Sochi, I've asked a question sort of over and over throughout the course of this, specifically when it comes to these policies, which is, if there is not the political appetite for getting this done now, then when will there ever be the political appetite to get this done? And with rage moms ready to head to the polls in November 2022, why is there not the necessary enthusiasm for these issues to get it done?
Well, you're right, Alicia. I think that if we don't get it done now, it'll be really difficult to get it across the finish line later. And I think that the White House understands this. And they've made the point over and over again that, they want something, and something is better than nothing. And there are still lots of investments being made. But I think that Democrats will need to message this ahead of the midterm elections, because you're right. Women make up that's exactly why Democrats won in the last election and in the midterm election before that, is because of women. They're the ones, in many communities, who get their entire household out to vote, and especially in the Latino community. And there will need to be some aggressive messaging that kind of talks to women about what exactly is in this package and how it helps them. I think the child tax credit has been extremely helpful to families, and you will need to see a White House and Democrats in general kind of talk directly to women and to families about how this benefits them.
This is also in focus, and we're going to be all watching this next Tuesday when Virginia goes to vote, and we're going to be looking at those suburban counties. We're going to be looking specifically at suburban women and how they turn out, the rates at which they turn out, who they turn out for. That may provide us some more answers.